Hello, I'm Katie Harrison and this is Stepmum Space, the judgment-free zone where we'll talk candidly about the fairy tales and scary tales of stepmum life. Before we get into the show, I want to ask you a favour. As you'll all know, I am super passionate about offering this much-needed support and normalising the emotions we go through as stepmums. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please do rate and review it as it helps to get to more women. And the more women we can reach, the more women we can support. Thank you. My guest today is Lucy. Lucy is a stepmom to 2 preteens and a biological mum to a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. Lucy is incredibly honest in this chat about her feelings towards her stepchildren and the role of stepmom, and how her emotions towards her biological children are very different. I'm so grateful to Lucy for opening up and being brave enough to speak up on such an uncomfortable topic. When she got in touch with me, she said that hearing other women's stories on the podcast had made her feel less isolated, and she wanted to share hers in the hope of doing the same for others. So let's get into the conversation. Hi Lucy, how are you?
I'm all right, actually. Thank you. Yeah, I'm okay today. Well, some days I'm not okay. But today today is a good day. The sun's shining. I'm at home on my own with my baby. Everybody else is out of the house, which is really nice.
Sounds beautiful. Tell us a little bit, Lucy, about your situation in your family.
It's been a bit of a whirlwind. We met 4 years ago. I'd been single for a really long time and had dated, on and off, lots of different people. He had been separated for a couple of years. I knew he had kids when we started dating, and I was really open to that. I also knew that I really wanted my own children, if that was possible. Kind of fast forward, we got pregnant quite quickly, actually. He was open to having more kids, which was amazing, because I was thinking about doing it on my own, actually, having kids on my own.
Okay.
Gone quite far down the road on that.
How old were you when you met, if you don't mind me asking?
I was 38.
Okay. So it's that time when for a woman it sort of starts to tick a little bit for us, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, a little bit, a lot. Like, and I knew, I'd known that I'd wanted kids for a long time.
Yeah.
As in, I wanted to be pregnant and go through that. That was kind of a big deal for me. So it was amazing that, it was clear from the first moment that we met that, it was a really good match, and that we got on so well. So about 9 or 10 months after we met, I got pregnant, which was amazing. I was really happy. He went, white as a sheet when I told him. It wasn't, it was a surprise. It happened so quickly, but it wasn't, we were trying.
Yeah.
But I was, over the moon thrilled, because I didn't know if I was going to be able to have kids.
Yeah.
So it was amazing, but very fast. So we weren't living together, and I'd been living on my own for a long time. I was living in London, he was living out of town, having his children half the time. And so we had to kind of figure out where we were going to live, and that we all had to move in together.
This must have been like you say, and I was so beaming as you were talking about it, because that feeling of, really wanting a child and worrying whether you've kind of got time and then it happening is incredible.
Well, it's amazing. Yeah, you feel so lucky.
But for it to happen, kind of 9 months into a new relationship, and also a complicated relationship, right? How old were his kids when you got together?
7 and 5.
Had you met the children? Did you have a relationship with the children at that point?
I met them about 3 months into our relationship, and I just visited them for the day. Well, not even the day. I went down to their house for the afternoon. We played in the garden, and I, dropped him for a couple of hours, and then I left. That was weird, because I was so nervous about meeting them. And sort of when I left, I wanted this instant connection, like I'd had with their dad.
Yeah.
And I was really disappointed not to have got it. When I first met them. They're sweet kids, and we had a fun time, but I was also quite paranoid about, what will they think of me? I was kind of looking into watching their every move. Are they looking at me in a funny way? Do they like me? Just paranoid.
You want these little people so badly to like you, don't you?
I know, yes. And I wanted to like them as well. It kind of goes both ways, doesn't it? After that, I kind of felt like, gosh, I'm basically now dating 3 people. So my boyfriend and his 2 children, they're getting to know you, kind of figuring each other out. Obviously, I had choice in that situation. The children didn't have a choice about who their dad got together with. I don't know whether it was hard for them or not, but I was just conscious that they didn't have any choice in that.
And how did the children take to you? And also, importantly, as you mentioned, how did you take to them?
Yeah, I think they kind of accepted me sort of straight away, really. It was kind of quite nice. I really threw myself into being, when I was with them, cooking for them, and like doing my stepdaughter's hair in the morning before school. Yeah, so my boyfriend would come and visit me with them maybe in the holidays and take them out on outings, and they'd come and stay at my house, and it was fun and it was good and it was easy because there was distance between us, really. It got harder when we moved in together, for sure. I liked them, but I wasn't like, oh, I'm in love with them,
I think there's a lot of pressure on us to kind of, fall in love with these kids instantly.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like I wouldn't say I've fallen in love with them now. And I'm, 4 years into the relationship, 3 years into being a stepmom. I don't know when, I love them, but I wouldn't say I'm kind of in love with them. Does that make sense? It's such a different relationship with them compared to with my biological children, which feels so much more kind of primal. And also I think comes from how I feel, whether I feel accepted by them or not. So I have a good relationship with my stepdaughter. We get on really well. And my stepson, we have times of getting on really well and times of not getting on so well. I find both of them annoying. And I also find my 2.5-year-old annoying.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Children can be irritating as hell.
Yeah.
But it's funny, isn't it? Because it's okay to say that your own kids are like pissing you off. But the minute you say your stepkids are pissing you off, it's like judgment central.
It's weird. I feel kind of guilty. If my stepson does something that at the moment I'm feeling quite kind of sort of protective. It's strange, really, quite protective of my 2.5-year-old. With regards to my stepson. They get on so well, but my little boy is at quite an annoying phase of his development at the moment. And I would say he's at one of those phases where you're like, oh, only really a mother can love this little guy right now. He's being really irritating. But if I see my stepson get cross with him, I feel so over the top protective of him. I don't necessarily do anything about it, but the feelings are quite big for me. And I have to really check myself and go, hang on, don't worry. He's his brother, he loves him. Like I had my niece and nephew around the other day, and my nephew was getting cross with my little boy as well. But I didn't have the same feelings of protectiveness.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I don't really know why that is at the moment. It's just, I think my relationship with my stepson at the moment is a bit tricky.
Do you know what's caused that?
I think his position has changed in our family, so he's not the little one here anymore. He's got a little brother and a little sister now. She just turned 1 the other day.
Wow. 2.5 and 1.
Yeah, I'm tired. I'm very tired.
It's not easy, is it?
The little ones require so much physical energy, and the older ones require so much more emotional energy. I don't know whether you would say the same thing.
Our 2 little ones have got a similar age gap, and then our 4 and 5. And, so much easier in terms of, yes, they still require a lot of help, but, there's no high chairs, there's no, they can get themselves dressed, they can get themselves in and out of a bath. Obviously you sit and watch them and everything, but physically it's a lot easier, and also they sleep more often than not.
Yes.
So that means that you've got the energy in the day for all of the children, because I think when you've got the tiny little ones, you don't have that energy in the day, and obviously then kind of tempers are shorter for everybody.
Yes, and I do think my stepson finds, he's just finding his position in our family tricky at the moment. I don't, it's been that way for a while now, but he's struggling with it, I think, at the moment. And also, he's the little one at his mum's house, and he gets, everything kind of done for him there. And so he comes here and we're quite hot on kind of chores and kind of boundaries. stroke rules, whatever you want to call them. That's just how we want to run our family.
And you know what? I think when you've got 4 kids, you have to.
Yeah. Well, because you can't do everything. It's like, look, you're old enough to make your bed, make your fucking bed, and don't make a fuss about it, or I don't know, bring your plates to the kitchen. They're not like big things. It's just stuff that actually helps you, it helps me if I'm doing stuff.
And what's he, 9 now?
He is 9, and my stepdaughter is 11 going on 25. Yeah, and my son with my boyfriend is 2.5, and my little girl is a year.
Yeah, okay. And I think as well, I mean, this might be a really sexist comment for me to make, but I'll throw it out there. I'm always really conscious with my my biological son, who's 12, that I'm raising somebody's future partner. I don't want him to be one of those useless blokes.
Yeah, you want them to be considerate, think about other people, know how to do stuff, whatever it is around the house, whether that's being handy or clearing up after themselves. Caring about other people. It's sort of a caring about other people in your home, isn't it?
Exactly. And how have you always had a sort of more tricky relationship with your stepson?
I wouldn't say so, but I think I found it difficult that he's been babied. For some reason, I find that really hard.
And is he babied by your partner or just at his mum's house?
I think mostly at his mum's house, but a little bit here. I've noticed he really, really wants to be carried up to bed. He wants to be the little one. And part of me thinks, do you know, if that's what he needs right now, we should give it to him, because eventually he's not going to want to be like that. But I think I don't know, I sort of, something in me really resists that, and I haven't worked it through. I don't really know what that is. I actually find it intensely irritating. So I just don't know really what's going on for me when he does stuff like that. It's not from me. He doesn't want it from me. He doesn't want really anything from me, but he wants it from daddy, which is fine because I can't give it to him.
Possibly a bit of jealousy going on of, I used to be dad's baby and now these two are,
I know, and I actually kind of feel guilty about that, but then I also go, shut up, don't feel guilty about it. These little people who've come into our lives are bringing so much joy. We had such a lovely lunch the other day when we were sitting around the table. It was just easy. And actually last night I picked them all up from school, brought them home, and it was just me and all 4 kids round the table, and we had some pasta and we chatted, and it was easy for the first time in a long time, actually. And I just soaked up that moment. I was really just conscious of the moment and thought, wow, this feels like a family, and I feel like I'm in charge here, and the kids are all respecting me. And I mean, my 2.5-year-old was being a bit of a dick, but whatever.
But you know what, like, you have to, and I know what you mean about sometimes we sit around the table and we have like these moments that are so everyday. It might be like we put a couple of tubs of ice cream in the middle of the table and a load of little fruit and Smarties and marshmallows, and the kids make sundaes or whatever.
Nice. Might do that too.
Yeah, but it just feels like magic when there's no conflict.
Yeah, it really does. I think you're so kind of focused on the conflict when it comes up. I think certainly for me as a stepmom, I read into everything, every comment, every look that I might get, every kind of slammed door or kind of avoiding eye contact, whatever it is. I read into it and go, that must be because they hate me, or that must be because I've done something wrong, or I've said something wrong. And so yeah, it is magical when you have those moments that are free of conflict, because conflict is around all the time.
Yeah. And do you find it easier to sort of parent the kids when your boyfriend isn't there?
I don't know. When my boyfriend's here, it's great because the buck stops with him, and they will listen to what he says. It's not that they won't listen to what I say. It's just sometimes I don't know what to do. Sometimes I don't know how to handle it. I'm like, oh gosh, what's actually happened here? How can I make sure I'm being fair and not taking one side over another? I have to say I find it a bit more complicated if it's between one of my stepchildren and one of my certainly my biological son at the moment.
Yeah, it's a very tricky one because I don't know about you, but you talked about the overthinking. And I remember when I used to think that a stepchild was out of order over my biological child, I'd almost like have to triple check it in my head to be like,
yes.
am I sure this is okay? But you do feel like, hang on a minute, I've got to make sure that, and I think sometimes actually I've said to my partner, like the biological kids lose out sometimes because you're so worried about upsetting the stepkids.
Absolutely. I had exactly the conversation with my boyfriend just today. I said, we have to make really sure that we're not being too hard on our 2.5-year-old, just because we don't want to be, I don't know, kind of upset our stepkids. I mean, I say that as a we, but what I really mean is I'm quite sort of disciplinarian, and, I don't know, it's just the way that I am, I suppose, and was brought up. Yeah,
but I think that's fine. I think if you're consistent with all the kids. So we've talked a little bit about, obviously the kids are sometimes with you and sometimes with their mum. What's the sort of split of time?
Exactly. Well, it's meant to be 50-50, but I would say we probably have the kids a little bit more,
Okay.
Which I find hard. And actually, I think the kids find hard too. They want more time at their mum's house. This is the contentious kind of bit. I think the kids just want to be with their mum a lot more than they are. She is busy working. She's got a really lovely partner. I don't have much of a relationship with her, and I want to keep it that way because I think she's probably quite tricky, and I'd rather my boyfriend but it's his relationship to kind of manage, I think, not mine.
And I think as well, like, you talked about how he'd been a single dad for some time. So actually he's done it. He's worked it out. It doesn't need to cause you stress, and
except it does. Except it does, because if he and his ex have like an altercation about something or some difficult text messages, then it really upsets him, and so then it upsets me too. I feel really protective of him as well. He's a big boy, he can kind of manage himself, but there's definitely still some wounds from the past, I think, for him.
Do you mind me asking why they split up?
I think the relationship just had reached its absolute end, and it had got kind of toxic, and they were arguing and having a horrible time together. And I think she said, I think we need a 2-week break. And he thought, fantastic, yes, please, I'm never coming back to this relationship. She gave him the exit that he'd been longing for, but because they had children together, he wanted to stay in the relationship. If you can do that, actually, I think it's a terrible idea if anybody does that. But it wasn't my relationship. I can't comment too much on it, really.
I think it's quite common for men and women to stay in relationships longer than they want to because they have children.
Or they don't know how to kind of get out. You're sort of in this thing and you sort of don't know how to sort of end it. It's just it is difficult.
And there's a massive stigma, I think, associated with leaving your marriage unless, there's been a huge infidelity or violence. There's an awful lot of people who are unhappy in their marriage, men and women, who don't feel it's okay to leave just because they're unhappy.
Yeah, it's almost like not a good enough reason.
Yeah, and I would agree with you that sort of staying for the kids, I mean, there's all sorts of research on this topic, but it generally isn't a great idea because you're modelling something to the children that isn't really a healthy relationship anyway.
Absolutely, yeah, I completely agree.
I often think children would love their parents to obviously be happy and be together, but if that's not an option, much better that, they have two parents who are, if possible, happy, either single or with other partners.
My stepkids find it hard that my boyfriend and his ex don't get on. And that's kind of like an unspoken thing in our house. Although my stepson a few years ago did say to himself, not to anybody else, he said, I like daddy, but mummy doesn't like daddy. He was quite little at the time. And I sort of took an intake of breath and thought, oh, wow, gosh, you've noticed that. And yes, that's true.
Can you remember what you said?
I didn't say anything. I was round the corner. We've sort of got an open plan kind of house, and I was sort of round the corner doing something else and just sort of checked it and thought, gosh.
So the kids are aware their parents don't get on. Is the relationship extremely confrontational, or?
It sort of functions. We try to keep it as business-like as possible, really. I'd say, business-like is really how it is. And a few kind of niceties at the door. That's kind of it. But I think my boyfriend gets more kind of not very nice text messages and sort of not very nice emails, but we sort of manage that in a way.
It's called the delete button.
It is, yes, call the delete button, or have a special folder in your inbox where the messages go so they don't disturb your day. And I am so conscious that it takes two to tango, and I only know my boyfriend's side of the story. I don't know her side of the story. I'd like to have kind of compassion for her. I think at the moment, the way things are, I really just want to keep my distance. It's sort of self-preservation.
I think unless you've heard through your partner or through the kids that, you know, the mum would really like to meet you, then that's absolutely fine. Like, she probably is quite happy with that as well.
Yeah. Exactly. But then I'm also impacted by her decisions. And so one of the big ways my boyfriend's ex affects my life, I suppose there's lots of ways, but one of the main practical ways at the moment is like our shared diary. So we've got a shared diary between the households. I find it so hard. Maybe it's less to do with her, I'm not sure. It's just more to do with the kind of mechanics of it. If I kind of want to do something, or I mean, yes, it's I kind of have to put a request in. So it feels like that, like to my boyfriend, and say, you know, want to do this on this date. I've looked at the shared diary. We either have or haven't got the children. Let's do this thing. So it's sort of communicating with my boyfriend, which is normal. But then there's sort of an added thing that then if it's perhaps on a date that we need to maybe not have the kids so we can do something, or we would like to have the kids so that we can do something, it goes both ways. Then he then has to communicate with his ex and to make sure that that's sort of in place, which I know that all step families will have to manage that. But as a step parent, I find that so difficult because I can't do it. Like I have to wait for my boyfriend to do it, and then it has to kind of be approved, which feels, I'm saying that with inverted commas, because it feels like I'm completely out of control. Like I don't have any, I might have come up with the idea, but I'm waiting on somebody to say so.
Oh,
it's
God.
like waiting for your boss to get back to you to say if you can have some annual leave. I'm like, for fuck's sake, this is my life.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of the dynamics. It's not necessarily anybody's fault. It just is the way things are. And I struggle with that.
Yeah, I can understand that. And, you know, you had 38 years of just managing your own diary.
Doing my own thing, what I wanted, when I wanted.
Yeah. And it's so, I used to struggle with this a lot. And I think it was easier in a way after kind of 4 or 5 years of guilt. We realized that it's okay to get a babysitter and go out for dinner.
Yes. Yeah, when you've got all the kids, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But for years we didn't, because it felt like, oh, we should savor every moment, you know, and then it's like, well, they're asleep.
Yeah, who cares? Let's go out. Brilliant.
What's to be savored? But the harder one I found was like if, you know, I wanted to take the kids to the pantomime because I was taking my own child and I wanted them all to have the same, but the pantomime wasn't on the days that we would have them. It would then always become so complicated and so difficult to arrange that, to be honest, I just stopped. I just thought, you know what, my partner can arrange this stuff if he wants to, because all it's bringing me is loads of stress and anxiety, toing and froing, and all I'm trying to do is do something nice.
Yeah, absolutely. X kind of affects my life, well, in lots of ways. But for example, where we live, I never, ever would have chosen to live where we live. I'd always wanted to live south if I was going to move out of London. But the circumstances were that my boyfriend and his children were out west. And so I moved out west, away from all my family, away from all my friends. I guess that's less the X, but more kind of the sort of circumstances, really. If I wanted to be with my boyfriend, I kind of had to do that. You know, it was just a practical consideration. But that has also affected me in quite big ways in terms of my own support network, not being around. Had to try and make brand new friends. I've had 2 babies in that time, a global pandemic. It's been homeschooling. Don't mention homeschooling. The X affects me in other ways, sort of like we just have different standards in the houses or different values. So for us, table manners are really important, but I don't think my boyfriend's ex really is bothered by them, which is fine. That's fine to happen in their house. I don't mind, but it is important in our house that the kids have their knife and fork in, we call it in the preferred hand rather than it being in the right hand. Because that's something the kids came up with, actually, because we kept having so many arguments about it. So I was like, right, guys, how can we manage this better? Because we get in a fight every time we sit down at the table. And my stepson was brilliant. He said, why don't you not use words? Because I think he found that quite confrontational and quite difficult to manage. And why don't you just do like a symbol, swapping your hands if they've got the knife and fork in the different hands. I mean, it's ridiculous because it's not important to other people. And I thought, but it's important to us. That was a brilliant idea of his, an absolutely brilliant idea. And I was so kind of grateful for his input.
That's a really lovely example of like you guys deciding that you want something to be your way in your home, and him sort of saying, I'm fine with that, but could we do it this way, and compromise?
Exactly. Recently, I've taken a bit of a step back from doing kind of getting involved with anything to do with discipline, particularly with regards to my stepson. Just, again, it's been a self-preservation thing. At the beginning of our relationship, I really jumped in and really was like keen to be the parent, not the kind of favoured auntie role as a stepmum. But in the last few weeks, I've had to sort of take a step back, I think, because I felt like my stepson was really reacting badly to me kind of being involved in his life in those sort of disciplinarian ways, like table manners, or can you go and make your bed, or telling him off.
And in that situation, does your boyfriend step in, or does it mean that there's no kind of nobody asking him to do those things?
No, my boyfriend steps in. He's very, very good at that.
That's almost easier for you then.
Well, it is a bit. Yeah, it is a bit. And actually, our household in the last couple of weeks, having been quite tumultuous for me anyway, for the previous couple of months, has been much calmer since I've just gone, okay, I'm going to parent my 2 little ones, but I'm not going to get too involved in my stepchildren at the moment in a kind of traditional parenting role, because it's just at the moment too kind of, is contentious the right word? It just it's too it's painful for me. And actually I think certainly my stepson he's been really kind of rejecting in some of his behaviour towards me.
And then that just puts you in a difficult position, and we're so conscious of trying to sort of parent our stepkids and our kids in the same way, but it just doesn't always work like that. I was really worried about my little kids seeing things around them and growing up in the same ways, but they haven't.
I'm worried that if my stepkids behave in a certain way, then my biological children will too, and I have no control over that. But yeah, so it's really nice to hear you say that.
Yeah, and I don't know why it's been that way. I know with my biological son, who is the same sort of similar age as my stepdaughters, he isn't allowed things that they're allowed, sort of social media, TikTok, yada yada yada, all of that jazz, and I'm more strict on him. And he's 12 now, and I just sort of say, you know what, their parents have their rules for them, and me and your dad have our rules for you. And I think it probably helps that he's not somebody who's desperate to get on TikTok, but now I'm like, I'm just going to let this happen around me. It's not what I would want, but the conflict and the arguments that come out of trying to stop some things just aren't worth it.
Sometimes it's not worth it. I get, like you say, you have to pick your battles, don't you, and figure out what's important.
It must be quite interesting for you, and I have slightly similar in my world, that you've almost sort of got 2 families.
Yes, I do have 2 families. That I see it as having 2 families. So I feel that we're a complete family when all 6 of us are together. But I also have my mini family, which is my boyfriend, myself, and my 2 biological children, which is a totally different dynamic, because they're much, much younger. So when my stepkids aren't around, it's just a different vibe in the house. There's less going on because there are less people, less people around, less opinions, less needs, I suppose, less wants, all the rest of it. But yeah, I do feel like I've got 2 families. I don't know how my boyfriend feels about it. I think he feels like probably a piece of him is missing when his kids aren't here, which I would feel the same way if I was in his position. I don't feel like that. I like having half the week without my stepkids, so I can completely focus on my 2 little ones and my boyfriend, and then it's just much busier for the other half of the week. There's more going on for me emotionally, as well as just the practical stuff. We have half the working week with them, and then the weekend is kind of split into we either have them on a Friday night or you have them on a Saturday night and Sunday night, if that makes sense. It's sort of every other week, it's that way around. Although, to be honest, I get lost most of the time. I can't keep up with, hang on, where are we this week? Oh shit, it's half term. Or
I think when you have got a family where you've got such big age gap, it is difficult when you're trying to juggle that kind of split family setup.
Yeah, I think it's sort of the emotional, like often what happens when the stepkids go back to their mums, my boyfriend and I will have a debrief about how the last few days have been, how we think each child is, what might be going on for them, how we handled certain situations, how we could do things better. I mean, it sounds quite business-like, doesn't it? But it's a bit of a, debrief session is quite helpful. Or I might say how I feel about certain dynamics or things I'm finding difficult or things I need or want to change. Often I feel like we can't really talk about those things when the kids are here because the nature of our house is that there's always somebody listening behind a door.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just don't feel free, to kind of be able to say what I really think until they've gone to their mum's house.
Yeah, that's familiar to me as well. Do you find your boyfriend is really receptive to things? Do those conversations normally go well between you?
They are, I'd say 99% of the time, really good, helpful conversations. He is very, very understanding and not at all defensive. If the boot was on the other foot, I would be really defensive of my kids. And he isn't. He's a fair person. He's very loving and he's very encouraging. He's been really kind of saying, look, you're doing a great job. It's, we're right in the thick of it with the little ones. Don't give yourself a hard time. Don't try and do too much. I think I took on too much responsibility early on, as in emotional responsibility. I've got to kind of make this work and make these children love me. And it's too much. I'm not their mum. I'm not their dad. And I'm responsible for them in a very different way. It's not all on my shoulders to kind of make them into good human beings.
And actually, when you can let that go, it helps, because it's really difficult feeling like you're partly responsible for how someone turns out, but you don't really have a say in any of the things that lead to how someone turns out.
Yeah. And that's that. I've only really just realised that the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's been a bit of a light bulb moment. Like, oh, thank God I'm not responsible. Oh my God, this is brilliant. I'm not responsible. And I can just sort of enjoy them and then let the others, like you say, let the other stuff go.
As long as it isn't having an impact on you, your home, your children, those types of things. I know things like, what the stepchildren ate or whether they picked up their towels or whether they brushed their teeth, things like that used to really, I used to feel really, it sounds so stupid, but I used to feel really passionate about like doing the right thing by them in the same way that I would my biological child, but it just created conflict. So I just stopped.
I feel like I've got to that point in my journey right now. I've kind of stopped. I'm like, not going to eat your vegetables? Okay.
Yeah.
You should eat them. It's stupid not to, but I'm not going to get into a fight about it because it's really not, it's just not worth it. Like say the conflict is not worth it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess whatever happens, you have these children in your home and you do still have a right to have some say in the things that go on in your home.
Oh, yeah. So for me, certainly the last couple of months, emotionally, I've been finding really, really tough. I think I've been feeling quite kind of rejected by my stepson, particularly, almost sort of no matter what I do. He's sort of been quite kind of pushing me and his dad away, to be honest, to a certain extent. It feels like that. I think because he's struggling with his position in our family at the moment, he's just been quite rejecting. And I've found that really hard. One of the things he said to me a little while ago was like, you don't do anything for us. My stepdad boils me an egg every morning and without even asking me, but you don't do anything for us. And I thought, what? I do loads of stuff for you guys, but I don't make a song and dance about it. I just do it. That's the background. I was feeling unappreciated, I suppose, and unacknowledged, and it had been a real build-up of emotion. And we were all outside on a beautiful summer's evening playing a game. He finds playing games difficult. If he doesn't win or isn't doing well, he will get in a massive strop about the game. And so we were all playing together. The little ones were asleep upstairs, so they were out of the way. So this was time for us as a family without the little ones being a distraction. I was having a glass of wine. We were playing, and my stepson was not doing well. every turn he was getting more and more cross and angry and frustrated and down on himself.
And you can feel that kind of anxiety rising in you, can't you, of like what's to come.
Yeah. My boyfriend was just trying to ignore it and trying to get on with the game. I find it difficult if somebody is behaving badly and they're still in our environment. I can't not focus on that. I find it really difficult to sort of shut out the strop, if you like.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was getting more and more stroppy, and because I'd had such a nice afternoon with him, I thought I had like an in with him. I thought that he might respond to my encouragement. Big mistake. So I was like, you're doing so well, you're doing such a good job, don't worry, your next turn, keep going, we're having such a fun time, just really trying to encourage him.
Yeah.
And then I approached him, I think on one of the occasions, to try and give him a hug, which was again a terrible idea. And he screamed and shouted at me, get away from me, get away from me. And I was so shocked and taken aback and hurt. And bearing in mind that I had this couple of months build up of feeling really rejected, I smashed my glass of wine on the grass. I've never done this before in my life. Just a moment of fury, and said, I'm not trying anymore. I'm just not even going to try anymore. And I stormed out of the house, leaving everybody in floods of tears and in shock, because I've never behaved like that in my life before. It was like an out of body experience. I ran off and I took my phone and I put my trainers on. I just rang 3 of my closest girlfriends to be like, oh my gosh, I think I've just totally fucked up. I just smashed a glass of wine on the ground in fury, and everybody's cross with me and sad and upset and confused. You know, it was such an over-the-top reaction from me.
You're not the only stepmum who I've spoken to who's done something like this. And I think it's that constant build up. It's that, you know, you can only take so much before you snap. And if you're with your biological children, you let it out sort of little and often because you feel that it's okay to do. But I do think with stepchildren, you don't let it out little and often because you're worried about it, or you're trying, or you know, can't tell them off, I'll be the wicked stepmother, can't do that, I'll be the wicked stepmother. And then suddenly like this massive thing happens and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. But I actually think it was good. I mean, yes, it was an over-the-top reaction and it was a massive build-up. I needed to do it. Now we've made up, but it was difficult for the following week. I had a big conversation with my boyfriend about it when I came back. He was quite keen for us all to make up, and I just was not ready to talk. In our house, you know, it's really, if there's an argument, we make sure that at some point when everyone's ready, we have a conversation about what happened to sort of make things up. I'm sure lots of families do that.
And how was your boyfriend with you when you came back?
He was great, actually. He was like, you know, I love you so much. It's okay. You haven't done anything wrong. You had a red mist moment. I've had plenty of those. Don't worry. It just felt so much bigger because it was in front of my stepkids. I shout at my 2.5-year-old, bless him, quite a lot if he's making me cross. So I do let things out with him, but making up with him is a kiss and a cuddle, and mummy was cross because, or why did mummy get cross? Just to try and teach him about his behaviour, and also for me I do say sorry to him. I'm sorry I shouted. But with my stepkids, they're extra frightened, right? I think I really frightened them when I broke that glass of wine on the ground. I really frightened them. They were so shocked. They hadn't seen me do anything like that before.
So then I think, well, then are you setting yourself up? Because all these little things are like, you know, little stones in that glass of water, and eventually that glass of water is going to overflow. Yeah.
Well, and it did overflow for me. So, and that's partly why recently I've taken more of a step back with, you know, in our house, of not getting too involved. And certainly with my stepson, really actually trying to respect his space a bit more. I think I've just been trying too hard to reach out to him when he didn't really want me to reach out to him. And so now I just see myself in my mind's eye as kind of, I'm in one position and he knows where I am if he needs me or wants me, which he doesn't at the moment, which feels painful. But if he does, one day, hopefully he will, I'm there and he knows where to find me, rather than me constantly reaching out to him and being kind of battered away. It's just too painful.
That rejection, even if it doesn't show up as, you know, initially as rejection, I think what a lot of stepmums feel the pain from is that rejection, and then you just think you're trying so hard and you're getting just pushed away. It's painful.
It's annoying as well, because I feel like he loves his stepdad. And I'm so jealous. Because I'm like, why can't he love me? Why can't he love me too? I'm really great.
That's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, all the research will show that stepdads have a much easier ride in a family than stepmums.
I think it's the line that both of us have taken. So I think his stepdad does treats, buys them tons of stuff, takes them on outings, it's kind of super fun. And I'm maybe more boring, a bit more ploddy, and not, we don't spend tons of money on the kids because we haven't got tons of money to spend. So
maybe just like work on your egg boiling skills.
Even then I might make something that he says he likes and then he says he doesn't like it. I can't fucking win. I literally cannot win. I'm just gonna stop.
Just take the pressure off. And also, I think it's important to realize you've got a 1-year-old, a 2.5-year-old. Like you've been through an awful lot. It's been a whirlwind 4 years for you. It sounds like you're doing great, and it sounds like your partner is so super supportive, which is what it comes down to in the end, because it's him that you're with.
I mean, it's it's a work in progress, and we're getting married this year, which is very exciting.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, that's a whole other story in itself, but we're just working on it, and one day hopefully it will start to feel a bit easier and not quite so kind of emotionally complicated.
Well, I wish you every piece of luck in the world, and do keep in touch.
Thank you. Thanks for chatting.
God, I loved that chat so much. A massive thank you to Lucy for so generously sharing her story and her feelings. I hope you were able to take something from that conversation. I think it's so easy as a stepmom to beat ourselves up, to focus on what we've done wrong, and to become consumed with thinking about how we can make things better. And sometimes the best thing we can do for our own well-being is just to take a step back and do nothing. Remember, you are not a one-woman toolbox for fixing families, so just be a bit gentler on yourself. As always, if you've got a story you'd like to share, please do get in touch. You can contact me via the website stepmumspace.com or on Instagram at stepmumspace. And if you've enjoyed the show, please do rate it, as it helps other women find us. See you next time.